probably the only department seminar. You don't need any introduction. Any of you should know me. If you don't know me, you fail IE 697 automatically. Okay, so today, actually I kind of debate. I usually give one seminar in the fall semester, and that is usually how to be a good graduate student. And I'm the one giving the pep talk, okay, for the new students. But I get so many requests about blockchain, okay, and I did a presidential colloquium at September to introduce to a wide, broad group of people what blockchain is. And many of you at this point probably already heard about that word. And most of you probably at least heard about Bitcoin, okay? So I think I will give this lecture also to the department to answer that question. This one does not require you have any special knowledge about the blockchain. So this is my 50 minutes version of what it is. Okay, talk. Whoever has taken my course now, I'm a big fan of Dilbert. So you cannot find a talk I'm giving without having Dilbert, okay? So blockchain, the cliche question I got is, what is blockchain? You heard it all the time, and a lot of companies are interested, and I really love this one. The venture capitalist saying, despite your cool ponytail, look at the ponytail of the Dilbert, you seem to have squandered our investment. You will get no more funding unless you mutter empty internet words that make us swan. So what's the word? Blockchain, yay! Everybody gets so excited about the blockchain. We are blockchain this, we are blockchain that. So what is actually the blockchain? And by the way, I get a lot of phone calls from the company say that we really wants to use blockchain in my company, but could you tell me what blockchain is? And the question is actually should be reversed, okay? I read a lot of definitions of the blockchain on the website, from Wikipedia to all the books possibly talking about the blockchain. And the ones I like the most is actually from the MIT Technology Review. A blockchain is a shared, permanent, append-only distributed ledger. Okay, so we will talk every single word in this definition, why it is important. But this is how a blockchain works. How many of you has had experience with paying with a Bitcoin? Okay, how many of you has ever been paid with PayPal? So how do you pay with PayPal or Chase Quick Pay? Pretty much you have an email in there, is that right? And then, or a phone number or whatever. Then you kind of put in there, have a money amount in there, you click OK, then the other side receive the money. I believe both PayPal and Chase Quick Pay actually now is immediately, am I right? It's actually no transaction time. So how is the Bitcoin or blockchain-based transaction different? When you send the money to PayPal, through the PayPal, who is handling that money transaction? It's PayPal. And when you send the money from the Chase, even you don't see that, the Chase computer or somebody is keeping the ledger to deduct the amount, okay, and then to award the amount to the other side. But when you have a blockchain-based, if I want to send money, who is the lucky person? To Michael. Yeah, he's my student. So it totally makes sense. I send money to him. The transaction where it's broadcast along the network. Okay? And so every party in there know. Those in the network will compete to prove the transaction is valid or not valid. And they actually get a award based on that. The block then be added to the chain, which provides an inviolable and a transparent record of the transaction. And at that point, the money moves from A to B. So instead of having Chase or PayPal, keep the record ledger in there, you don't know who actually validated this transaction. However, everybody can see this transaction happen. It's on there. If you want to eliminate that transaction, well, theoretically, you cannot. Because, see, it is an append-only distributed, which means you can have another block in there, say the previous one is void, but it has happened in there. Nobody can eliminate that. That's what the blockchain is about. A little bit more detailed description of the blockchain is that it is a mathematical structure for storing data in a way that is nearly impossible to fake. Therefore, it can be used for all kinds of valuable data. Okay? But on the other hand, there's another definition in there saying it's a single database that everyone has an identical copy. Okay? So let me show you briefly of a very good demo of a blockchain. I'm having this website and I'm giving the slides to the department. So later, you will have all the links I have. Okay, why do... Have you heard about whenever you want to do a demo, it's always fail? So let me see if I can get this demo down. No, I don't think I can. But this website, the blockchaindemo.io, is a very good website to let you actually add the data, validate the data, and so on and so forth. And also, I just want you to know that if somebody tried to manipulate one block on the blockchain, that not only does this block will show an arrow, all the blocks that added after this one will become invalid as well. Okay? So this is the important part. So let's look at a little bit of the detail of what blockchain is. A blockchain is a sequence of non-changeable hash-chained records. Some procedure, so what you need to do is you need to have some procedure to add, block to the blockchain. That includes who can do this. If you are looking at the Bitcoin, then anyone can do this. That's a totally public chain, okay? But if you look at another extreme, if you looking at inside company blockchain, then only those people who has the authority can add the block to that. And you need to figure out how is it done. And you need to have a validity condition for new block, which means you need to be able to answer are transactions valid or digital signatures correct and so on and so forth. And this is enforced by something called consensus. Okay? Consensus is pretty much a computer algorithm, but what it do is just to say, like if I'm saying here that everybody got A in all their courses, and I'm saying who approved this? If majority of the students approve, then we pass this. But it can also be, I say, no, everybody got D at the end of the semester, and because I'm the professor, I do that. So this is different kind of consensus. Okay? So consensus is just a way to say that how can we gain the approval, okay? Or prove the correctness. Later, I will talk a little bit more about the consensus. I assume a lot of you has heard about that mining the Bitcoin actually costs a lot of energy and need a lot of the computer resources. That's actually related to the consensus, okay? So some procedure for deciding between alternative candidate blockchain is that user initiate transaction using their digital signature, uses broadcasting their transactions to nodes. One or more nodes begin validating each transaction. nodes aggregate all the validated transactions into blocks. Look, I don't tell you which node doing this, right? So that's for later. Nodes broadcast the block to each other, consensus protocol used, and then block reflecting the true state is chained to the prior block. So this is pretty much how the transaction is going on. So what I will do today is actually using all the myths most of the people have about the blockchain and to explain what blockchain is. So the myth one, people always say is that blockchain is only for cryptocurrency. You probably heard about blockchain by hearing all different kind of cryptocurrency. The most famous one is Bitcoin, but there are, you guys know there are others, okay? And this is not true. Blockchain is just a way of handling data. It doesn't have to be the cryptocurrency. But on the other hand, what's the flip side of this question? Why does cryptocurrency choose blockchain as the foundation for the transition? What's the benefit of that? So let's take a look of the promises that blockchain has been given, okay? Security. Remember, non-changeable, okay? So valuable data set. When we look at the cryptocurrency, we're looking at people's money, actual money in there. So you want the security. You want to have the access control, okay? If you don't have the access control, it's pretty much like you have your wallet. Let's not say wallet, because people's wallet now typically don't have any money in there. So let's just say like you have $300, you put it on the street one by one, then you are definitely, that everybody can do that, you cannot keep your money anymore. So you need the access control. Transparency. Transparency means that the thing will kind of, so wherever there's a transaction, whoever have access to this network will know that. So this also means that any fake data or any way you want to hack it, there are more chance people can catch it since you have a whole network in there. Traceability. This is probably a counterintuitive. How many of you has watched any TV show or movie now? Suddenly, anyone who do the kidnapping wants the ransom through Bitcoin, okay? Because for some reason they think that means it's totally anonymous. Well, it is anonymous in some way, but actually it's traceability another way, because on the internet you can see exactly which IP address or what digital wallet the money coming from, okay, Promise 6 is saying no intermediaries. In other words, the people are so excited of using the blockchain to get rid of what they call the middleman. Okay, this is actually, if you look at what they call the white paper of a lot of company, half of the company were talking about this. They want to get rid of the agent to sell your house because all the house is on the blockchain, so they can validate and you can just have people bid on that. They're talking about the healthcare, that every patient actually have their own, own their record, so they can decide who to go. They don't need to have medical transfer data. I'll talk more about that later. There's the flip side of that. If you have all of these and everything happen on the internet, there's a reduced cost associated with that. The speed, because again, it's happening on the internet, it's faster. Efficiency and the data ownership. I want to talk a little bit more about the data ownership. So a lot of the proposals about the blockchain is basically to say that each body, you own your data. Okay, perfectly own your data. What does that mean? I assume by this time everybody knows about the Facebook having a very hard time now. And actually, I got like email every 3 days saying, please don't use Facebook or something like that. I never used the Facebook, and now I start to use it because of these emails. So the whole scandal is that Facebook actually have aggregated data from each user, okay? And then there is a third-party small data analysis company using this data to target a campaign, an advertisement to manipulate the campaign. So basically, that's it. And if you look on any news website or newspapers, technology site, you read about the account has been compromised. This millions of accounts has been compromised by this company, by that company, and so on and so forth, right? All of these is related to you have a centralized place storing the data. And then if that is getting hacked, you cannot. There's not much you can do. You change your password, and people are still kind of getting really upset about the Facebook one. So there are a lot of initiation now talking about you want to have the data ownership. That is, everybody actually have their own data. You still kind of go up to get your data on the internet, but they are likely anonymous. So people can get anonymous data, but they cannot directly target data to you. Okay, so that's what they mean by their own data. And also think about that. If you develop a course, it's too boring. If you suddenly become a rock star and you have a son that is very, very popular, everybody wants them on their phone. If you actually own this and distribute this through the blockchain, then you can see exactly at any moment who have the song, who is playing the song, so on and so forth. So this makes the copyright and the forgery, okay? The copyright tracking is easier, but the forgery is much harder. That's why there are several startup companies trying to have a blockchain for the artwork authorization and tracking, okay? Another thing is, Amazon knows me much better than I know myself, because every day I'm like, oh, I never know, I should buy this. I don't even know I need this until Amazon push me those advertisements, right? And also, there's a period of the time that one of my friends got abused, and I helped him to get a book on divorce. Oh my God. From then on, the recommended book is always 500 tips you should know before you file a divorce. Indiana Best Divorce Lawyers, how to get a divorce without, and my husband looked at Amazon one day. I'm like, are you doing something I don't know? Okay, so again, Amazon at this time knows your data. In blockchain, there's ways that Amazon still can see the selling of the product, but he see it anonymously, so he doesn't really can track your behavior, know this behavior about you. How many of you are doing healthcare research? Think about how does this, if the data blockchain based allowed anonymous, the IRB will be much easier, right? Because you can share the data without sharing the information in there, and the blockchain structure guarantees that. So that's what all the data ownership is about. Therefore, with all these promises in here, the industrial applications that are interested, including healthcare, finance, energy, internet, supply chain, real estate, retail, education, data storage, and government. There is a startup company in Chicago actually trying to distribute the welfare through the blockchain to avoid the black market on trading. There's the food stamps. So some people actually sell those food stamps in a reduced price, so they can buy drugs, they can buy, other things to get the cash for. And then if it is on the blockchain, then we can see if actually the person supposed to use the food stamp are actually using the food stamp. Okay, so I won't go through this in detail, but I just want you to know that there has been, it's not just something people are talking about. For all of these usage of the blockchain, you will have already have these companies actually already starting to do that. I'm specifically interested in the stopping the fake drugs one, and because this is also related to the drug abuse and addiction problem, so to make sure we track that. And then energy trading, music royalty. So all of these companies are already in here. I'm actually keeping the slides because I want to see 5 years later how many of them still exist. Okay. So this is actually a non-cryptocurrency example. This one is is in the IBM. IBM is working with Ford to help them to track the car. So before, what you have is you have regulator in-house, and you look at the car from manufacturer to dealer to leasing company, leasing, and in here. So in every places, you have an in-house ledger and you have a regulator in there. But if you realize that in a blockchain situation, okay, then can you see that pretty much everybody has the same data? Every time if there is some changes of the status, it's updated on the blockchain. And if there's a mistake, then all parts can see that as well. Okay, so in this sense, I think it's fairly fair to say majority of the big company now using the blockchain, the major usage of that is to use it as a distributed database, which means everybody actually get updating automatically. Mr. Bitcoin is anonymous. Okay, again, going back to now, they want the ransom to be paid in Bitcoin. Okay, not to mention there is like at least 10 minutes waiting time for each of the transaction, and most of the time much larger. And this 10 minutes should give enough time for the police to find you. Okay, and also it is something called the pseudo-anonymous. Okay, any of you who has done 332, you probably heard about pseudo code. So that means it's actually fake code, but sort of it kind of do the algorithm, right, steps. So think about how the IP address can be traced back to you. You know that whatever you do online, unless you do it so deliberately, you can always be traced back. You can always be traced back, okay? So they kind of say that you never know who is talking to you. It's a dog or a human being, right? That's not true. If you actually spend the money, you can, okay? Not to mention dog, typically don't type. So every Bitcoin payment has a traceable history that can be viewed by anyone, which is the Bitcoin address. Actually, anybody can look at how this Bitcoin has been changing owners for the whole life of that, from the generating to, I won't say right, the end. But the Bitcoin address are not themselves linked to a person or entity. That's why Bitcoin is often called pseudonymous, because directly you cannot say who is paying you. If you do the PayPal case, you have that email address, right? So you know who is. But for the Bitcoin, it's usually an address is paying another address. So you can have anonymous pay in here, but if the authorities wants to do that, to trace back, there's no problem about that. So this actually have a lot of research on this. Is it possible for complete anonymous? Actually, this is considered, yes, now it's become possible. Just in late 2017, I think it's the Princeton, two computer scientists at the Princeton actually developed something called the zero knowledge proof. You can check for that. What does that mean? That means that means I don't have to expose who I am or what my IP address are. I can tell some other information so people can validate. Okay? So this is considered about so if in the future, some cryptocurrency using the zero knowledge proof that you can actually achieve the total anonymous. However, because of all the regulations, you are in the internet, so eventually, theoretically, they can always trace you back from the internet steps, okay? And then people, a lot of time, can still trace you. So don't use blockchain to do illegal things, okay? Just don't. I think because I say this, I get myself covered for the legal issues and everything. Myth 3 is that all blockchains are like the cryptocurrency ones. When I talk about Bitcoin, your impression is usually that it's a group of the people, whoever want to buy Bitcoin, you can just go, right? And then buy the money. There are different places you can buy. You can even just buy as a hard drive with a whole bunch of, because each Bitcoin is just a sequence of characters. Okay, so if you buy that, you can go for that. 20 years ago, actually, it's like $1 can buy you 20 Bitcoins. And a little bit earlier than that, there's a programmer actually used 10,000 Bitcoin to buy a pizza. That's the first recorded transaction in history, and it's also called the most expensive pizza in the history. They calculate if they make that whole pizza in gold, it's still much cheaper compared to if you look at the Bitcoin price now. But Bitcoin is something called the open blockchain. That is, it's openly read and write. Whoever wants to mining for blockchain, you can just download the whole database and start a calculation. It's a much slower process, okay? The kind of the security you have is either proof of work, which means you solve a very hard math problems using your computer, and whoever solve it the first will get the reward. So it's a zero-sum game. The winner take it all. Or proof of stake, which means whoever are the richest make the decision, or whoever has the authority make the decision, okay? The identity in this case is anonymous, pseudonymous, and the asset is native asset, which means currency, money, or something like that. Transparent, very fluid, and so on and so forth. But there is also something called a private blockchain. That's actually where majority of the company application using the blockchain is for. You need the permission to be able to read and write in that blockchain. It is much faster because the permission means you have some trust to the party. You need the pre-approved participants, known identities. So we are looking at any asset. Many banks are actually using a blockchain-based system to arrange their financial product. So pretty much at this point, we're looking at a distributed database. So if you look at the public versus private, permission versus permissionless, if you have many unknown participants, okay, and the people don't have trust on each other, I'm coming to this line assuming everybody wants to cheat me to get my money. That's a public chain. We typically use proof of work, which means you need to solve a very hard problem to actually do that, and then everybody keeping an eye on the network. Private chain means you have known participant, typically from one organization, permission centralized, reads can be public or restricted, but the consensus are usually much easier. Which means either it is somebody say, yeah, I'm okay with this, or as long as you have the permission, you are defaultly considered this is good. So database. I think in the future, this will be the major one. That is, you have something called a consortium blockchain, which means you have multiple organizations participate. For example, think about the healthcare system. You are the patients, you also have nurse, doctors, insurance company, right? Write require consensus of several participants, like the hospital, the doctor, and so on and so forth. Read can be public or restricted. In the healthcare case, it will be restricted. So which level can read that? There's a multiple algorithm for consensus, but the key point I want you to take is that the consortium one good thing about blockchain is that you can make the different kind of authorization rules for the consortium. So different parts can access different data in different days, anonymously or not anonymously. So in this way, we can customize the data sharing through the consortium. How many of you has ever read about there is a big exchange of the Bitcoin get hacked? So this many Bitcoin has been stolen, so it costs, how many of you has read that? Okay, several of you has read that, and I promise you, you will hear that more and more, okay? I think the funniest one I have heard is somebody get rid of his old computer with about 10,000 Bitcoin on that. He totally forget, because at that point, the Bitcoin is really, really cheap. So he never thought it's something that he should keep. Then, obviously, the Bitcoin kind of goes skyrocket. So he hired a group digging the recycling center, trying to find the old computer to get a hard drive. Another one is that when there's no kind of there's like two person, they do that. So they decide each party will keep a key, half of the key, so that only these two, they own the Bitcoin kind of together. Then one kind of have a car accident, and his wife has no idea where the key is stored, or it's password protected. So anyway, so the other party is still trying to figure out how to use that half Bitcoin, okay? But Bitcoin, I can tell you, this is the truth, that is, the blockchain itself has never been hacked. Okay, that is actually what the value of the blockchain is. So what's the potential danger if you want to hack a blockchain? Smart contract bugs. You heard about smart contract? Smart contract is kind of like, I think PayPal recently have a service called pay when you receive. If you bid from the eBay and pay through the PayPal, they actually allow you to do that. And for the people coming from China, if you ever buy from, you guys know which website I'm talking about. I don't know the English name about that. But then you always know that your money is kept in a third party until you actually get the product, right? So that is similarly the smart contract for the blockchain, but it's more broad. Like, you can access the data for 3 days. After that, you cannot access. Or, as long as, say, 3 conditions fulfilled, I will release the money to you, or I will release the signature to you, so on and so forth. They can introduce bug. So to give you the places to hack the chain. But at this point, again, it has not happened for the public chain yet. For the private chain, there's another thing, it's called the 51% attack on smaller chain. What does that mean? That means, remember, blockchain means everybody has the same database. So if it is a huge chain, and you say, I want to hack this specific branch, and I rewrite the data, then other people can tell you immediately. So how can you get success? You have to write more than 51% of the chain simultaneously, so that majority actually will agree with your data, not the remaining true data. So if you can control 51% or higher computation power for the whole chain, then theoretically, yes, you can dominate the chain and you can write false data in there since other people cannot prove this is incorrect. Okay? But think about Bitcoin. It's very hard for you to do so. Consider how big the networks are. On the other hand, if you look at a 3-person company with 3 nodes and you want to get some information about that, then it is doable. Another thing is quantum computing. Anyone hear about that? Okay, so I think if our department will ever develop something, that's probably Professor Wu's lab will get that down. But quantum computing is totally different. It can dominate all of the other computers with much faster speed. So if quantum computing actually become available to the hacker, then pretty much that 51% attack is not applicable anymore, since the quantum computer itself can dominate the internet. So what's the point in here? So how do you have those hack? So think about this. Probably most of you has not ever seen a fake the US dollars, right? Because that's a federal crime, number one. Number two is it's very hard to fake a bill. However, if you lose your wallet, then you lose the money inside of that. So all of the hacking you have heard is actually hacking on the internet platform to trade the Bitcoin. In other words, still a centralized database. If you only trade your Bitcoin offline, which means I give you the hard drive or the U drive, and you pay me the money, you are very, very safe. Okay? But when we look at the hacking here, we're looking at a lot of the money in these cases. Okay, Dilbert again. Myth 5, blockchain is for everything. If you ever goes to the Silicon Valley, 3 words, okay. Big data, AI, blockchain, okay? So I think a monkey kind of randomly type a proposal with these words kind of appear very frequently can attract some venture capitalists, okay? That's also why I got a lot of startup companies to say that we need to get a venture capital interested in me. Can you tell me why it makes sense to use Bitcoin, to use blockchain in my business? And I'm like, no, I don't think it makes sense. And that's pretty much the end of the conversation, right? I think we should build a blockchain. Does he understand what he said, or is it something he saw in a trade magazine? What color do you want the blockchain? I think mauve has the most RAM. Okay, so this is pretty much to say that a lot of time people talk about the blockchain without understanding that. Okay, I have 2 toddler boys, so I have to show you this cartoon. I still don't have them. Give it like 10 minutes, brother. So they are kind of transfer money through the blockchain. So the public chain, what's the disadvantage of the blockchain? The public chain is wasteful. Why? Because you are solving a problem, a very hard math problem. And whoever first solved it, get the reward. So actually, many people, so number one, do you know that the GPU, the graphic, I forget what it's the full name. But anyway, that's the one, if you want to play computer games, you need a very high-end one, the GPU, control the graphic, right? The GPU price has been significantly increased. Not because there are more people playing computer games, but because people are using those GPUs, since it's much faster, to mining Bitcoin. Okay? And also, there's a survey to show that the electricity that has been used every year for the mining of the cryptocurrency is actually more than the electricity used by a medium small country. So when we look at the energy side, So I continue to tell the company who say that, they say, blockchain is not free. Okay, blockchain is not free, especially if you want to do a public chain. You need to consider that. It's slow. If everybody paying with the Bitcoin, then you will see a whole bunch, you will see a kind of a double or triple line outside the Starbucks, since every transaction takes at least 10 minutes. And when I'm using a place called the Coinbase, okay, as the platform, when there's a big fluctuation of the Bitcoin price, actually the whole system will be down for like a couple of days. So forget about quantum trading for the Bitcoin, okay, unless you are not relying on the public ones. Poor scalability. That means when you have a smaller public chain, everything goes smoothly. But as soon as you have a large one, the speed, the performance, the security, the vulnerability deteriorate exponentially. And this related to, there are something called the self-organized centralization. Think about it. When you buy a lottery, is that common for you to actually a group of people that pull in the money and have a lot of numbering there? Okay? And so you have a slightly higher chance of winning. So same thing here. Let's say I have a very high-end computer. And I have a work with a business school professor showing that if you have the most up-to-date mining computer, and you are doing that alone, it takes about 40 years to make even with the investment you have, since it is the winner take it all. Okay? However, if you join a pool with a lot of people, which means you can buy all of the money, all of the computational power together, then you have a better chance. Better and better chance. So can you understand from the game theory point of view, the self-organized centralization? Okay, so that's actually, you guys all probably heard about, they call the mining factory. Is they find a place, actually, preferably not many people, with the lowest electricity price, and have it in there with all the computers and just doing the mining. So if you decide to get into the mining game, I will strongly oppose you to do so, unless you join a big pool. Okay. But how about the private chain? How about the consortium private chain? Okay. How do you design the incentive? You don't have a Bitcoin or any token as the benefit. It does, or even if you have the token, it doesn't have the monetary value. So how can you encourage people? I actually asked about the Ford team who are using a blockchain for their supply chain and different parts. I asked them, how can you make sure the other parts participate in this? And they say that, oh, that's obvious. If they don't participate, we don't buy from them. So again, in this case, you are looking at, you have to do this. But not every company has this power, right? We're looking at Ford. So a lot of companies actually, they're their biggest customer, so they have enough motivation to do so. But for the other company, and also, how can you make sure that these people who input the data, even you motivate them to do so, they're not cheating? Okay, garbage data in, garbage data out. Okay, how can you make sure people validate that? So, and also network bandwidth. For you guys in the Purdue University, that's never an issue. But people are talking about actually using this for the agriculture product. So when you are in the middle of the ocean, how can you make sure I get the data? Okay, and with the network and the bandwidth. So, you cannot read this, but the key point I want to say is that if your current system works fine, leave it as it is. Okay? Don't chase the buzzword. Okay? To use that. Even if you feel it is solid for you to use the blockchain because you want to see use some of the promise it has given to you, you need to carefully design the experiment. Okay? And also, by the way, there is a note outside my office, basically saying you can never, ever ask me when to buy or sell your Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency. Okay. Number one, I'm still underwater myself. Okay. And you should never follow an economics advice to buy stocks because they're horrible on that. And number two is that I personally think if you decide to use the cryptocurrency for your retirement portfolio, that's a very bad idea because of the fluctuation, the regulation changes, the hacking in the higher level, and so on and so forth, okay? So this is our blockchain lab. We have updated person in here. I really actually appreciate this photo because the last photo I have on the website is it looked like I'm pregnant for 8 months, which I was. So at least this is a recovered one. So I'm working with Professor Ventresca and Professor Agro, and now I'm also working, and several other people. For example, Professor Liu is doing the energy of the blockchain. So and then Professor Zhang, who has just joined the Cranard, we're working on a supply chain blockchain modeling. Professor Mario Ventresca's research is more on the system and game theory side, okay? And we actually have to work on, we have a conference paper and he's preparing for the journal paper on saying if you actually look at the public chain as a multi-agent game, and you can see that in many situations, you cannot avoid people actually self-organize and try to dominate the whole chain, okay, by game theory. And Professor Agro's research is mainly on the energy trading. Say, if you want to sell your spare energy or the computational power on the internet, what price should you charge? And how to optimize this price ranges so we can relieve the peak demand and boost the non-peak demand. Okay, so we have a lot of work on that. My work with Professor Zhang is mainly on saying we want to study the traceability using the blockchain. Remember, blockchain has all the trace? But do you know that actually for the milk company, a lot of time when they get the milk, especially the organic one they get from the small farms, they actually pour it together. So in this case, actually, every part has a motivation to cheat. Things after you pour together, if I give you the poor quality one, there is no, you cannot kind of trace back to me. So in this case, how can we use the blockchain and in which step should we intervene to avoid this kind of cheating? This also goes to if I do a subcontracting of my product for different parts. It's a little bit better on the tracking because I can know which part is broken. So I can go, but still, because you can have a product with hundreds of the parts in there. So how can I actually using the blockchain to enforce my subcontractor to give me the quality I want? So this is in the typical operation management side. And of course, many of you know me as the simulation person, okay? So we are doing our agent-based simulation. So we want to actually incorporate a wide variety of mechanisms, social interactions into the model to study the blockchain. Okay, we are in the process of developing an agent-based simulation model.